learned that song like 2 days before I performed it live, which was just like, oh my gosh. And I about puked every time I performed on the show.
She walked onto the America's Got Talent stage with a puppet in her arms and a smile so bright it felt unbreakable. But behind that smile was a storm no one saw coming. Darci Lynne stunned America with a talent so rare it felt almost magical. Yet her rise to fame carried a weight far heavier than her young shoulders should have ever borne. From hidden struggles to emotional battles that unfolded long after the cameras stopped rolling, her journey is far from the fairy tale viewers imagined. This is the heartbreaking, little-known truth behind the girl who once made the world believe anything was possible. Very few of us know this truth. Long before Darci Lynne became a national sensation on America's Got Talent, her world was shaped by a surprising contradiction. She possessed a deep love for singing, yet she was almost paralyzed by the idea of performing in front of other people. According to her biography, music was one of the first things that captivated her as a child. She enjoyed humming along to songs at home, experimenting with melodies, and absorbing anything musical that sparked her imagination. But while the desire to perform was strong, her confidence was fragile. What came naturally to many children, singing for parents, relatives, or classmates, was something she found extremely difficult. Her shyness ran so deep that she reportedly struggled even to sing in front of her own father. Whenever he encouraged her to share a song, she would freeze with anxiety. Instead of standing proudly and performing, she often retreated behind her mother's side, literally hiding from the attention. This wasn't a simple case of stage fright. It was a genuine emotional hurdle that made the idea of being seen, heard, or evaluated by others feel overwhelming. For a child with clear talent, that internal barrier created a painful contrast between what she wanted to express and what she felt capable of doing. This early insecurity meant that stepping into the limelight was far from a natural progression. In her early childhood, there were no signs suggesting she would someday stand confidently on some of the world's biggest stages. The idea of crowds, bright lights, and public applause seemed unimaginable during those years, when she could barely bring herself to sing for the people she loved most. Her parents recognized her ability, but they also saw her fear. A fear strong enough to silence her voice, no matter how much she wanted to use it. Everything began to change when she discovered ventriloquism. What seemed at first like a novelty or a playful hobby soon became the tool that helped her find her courage. Ventriloquism offered something singing alone did not: a sense of emotional distance, a protective layer, a character through which she could communicate without feeling exposed. Holding a puppet allowed her to shift attention away from herself, focusing instead on the personality she created. It gave her a safe way to rediscover joy in performing, and gradually it helped her reconnect with the confidence she had lacked for so long. When Darci Lynne won America's Got Talent in 2017, at just 12 years old, her life shifted overnight. One moment, she was a shy, talented Oklahoma girl performing at fairs and small venues. The next, she was a nationally recognized child star with a million eyes watching her every move. For someone whose early life was defined by shyness, the sudden explosion of attention was both thrilling and overwhelming. Fame opened doors, tours, television specials, interviews, and nationwide praise. But it also brought pressures that few children her age could fully understand. With her victory came an immediate public image: the sweet, adorable, impossibly talented kid with puppets and a smile. Audiences fell in love with her charm and innocence, and those qualities became part of the brand the world expected her to maintain. Yet as she entered her teenage years, those expectations grew heavier. According to multiple sources, the transition from child star to growing young performer was not easy. She began to feel pressure to stay perfect, to remain the cute, wholesome girl America had crowned. Behind the scenes, this expectation could feel suffocating. The very traits that made her famous, her youthful personality, Her family-friendly ventriloquism, her gentle stage presence, became constraints as she tried to mature naturally. As she grew older, the public's reaction did not always grow with her. Fans and followers sometimes struggled to accept that she was no longer the 12-year-old prodigy. Her desire to experiment, evolve, and express herself more freely often clashed with the audience's desire for her to remain exactly the same. This disconnect can create emotional strain for any young performer, growing up while the world tries to freeze you in time. The problem only intensified with the rise of social media. According to an article, the pressures of fame and cruel comments on social media contributed to a sense of losing direction. Even innocent posts could attract criticism, judgment, or comparisons to her younger self. People who had never met her felt entitled to comment on her appearance, her personality, or how she changed as she aged. For a teenager still figuring out who she was, this level of scrutiny could feel relentless. These challenges are common for child stars. The loss of a normal childhood, the pressure to be public-ready at all times, and the difficulty of forming an identity separate from early fame. Darci Lynne experienced the typical conflicts of adolescence: self-discovery, shifting interests, emotional growing pains, but lived through them in front of millions. Every new hairstyle, outfit, or creative choice could spark commentary. Every moment of uncertainty felt magnified by the public gaze. Then, as Darci Lynne moved beyond her early teenage years, the world still saw her as the bubbly child star who won America's Got Talent with a puppet in her arms. But privately, she was undergoing the same transformation every teenager experiences, questioning who she was, what she wanted, and where she was headed. For many young performers, adolescence brings a complicated collision between public identity and personal growth. In Darci's case, that collision came sharply. While ventriloquism had once been the key that unlocked her confidence, it gradually began to feel like a barrier. According to reports, Darci increasingly felt boxed in by her puppets, confined to the role of the puppet girl. The performance style that had made her famous at 12 no longer matched the young woman she was becoming. She still appreciated the craft and understood what it had given her, but it also began to limit her ability to evolve artistically. As her interests expanded towards singing, songwriting, and normal teenage experiences, the puppets, once empowering, started to feel like a cage. This inner conflict deepened as she entered the later stages of her teens. Several sources claim that by 2023, she had nearly stepped away from performing entirely. It was not a dramatic collapse, but a quiet, heavy exhaustion. She reportedly paused her career to focus on therapy, personal reflection, and reclaiming her identity independent of her childhood act. Songwriting became an emotional outlet, a way to communicate feelings she didn't feel safe expressing publicly. For a performer who had spent years hiding vulnerability behind ventriloquism, having to confront her own voice directly was both freeing and frightening. The emotional toll seemed significant. One article noted that she struggled in silence, feeling unable to summon the voice within, an expression that captures both her artistic frustration and her internal struggle. She described herself as feeling lost, a word that resonates with the experience of many teens, but carries extra weight for someone growing up under constant public attention. She was caught between two identities: the child star the world still adored, and the young woman who wanted to be something more. This period resembled a true identity crisis, a deep internal conflict over how much of her past to carry forward and how much to let go. She questioned whether ventriloquism was still the right path, whether she wanted a career in music, or whether she simply wanted the privacy of a normal teenage life. For someone whose fame had begun so early, figuring out who she was without a puppet, without a stage, and without a ready-made public persona was challenging. In addition, as Darci Lynne transitioned from child star to young adult, her fame attracted not only admiration, but also a wave of online speculation. Among the most persistent and problematic rumors were claims that she had secretly battled cancer during her youth and was later declared cancer-free in July 2020. These allegations circulated on various corners of the internet, but a closer look reveals an important truth. The claims are not supported by any credible evidence. They appear almost exclusively in tabloid-style blogs, low-credibility entertainment sites, and social media rumor mills, none of which provide documentation, trustworthy sourcing, or verified statements from Darci herself. The rumor typically follows a dramatic narrative, a supposed hidden illness, a miraculous recovery, and a revelation that was finally made public through sensationalistic reporting. One article even claimed she suffered a deep betrayal at age 14, tied to a silent cancer struggle, framing the story as though it were a major uncovered truth. Yet when these pieces are examined more closely, they show no links to interviews, medical sources, family statements, official documents, or any reputable journalism. Instead, they recycle the same claims among similar websites, each echoing the others without verification. This stands in stark contrast to the information provided by reliable sources. On Darci Lynne's official biography page, there is no mention whatsoever of cancer or any serious medical diagnosis. Likewise, her Wikipedia article, which is strictly monitored for accuracy and must cite credible references, contains no reference to childhood cancer, remission in 2020, or a hidden health crisis. Her public appearances, interviews, tour announcements, and social media posts also show no indication that such a major medical event ever occurred. Nothing in her documented timeline aligns with the dramatic claims circulated on rumor-based sites. Some of the very sources that helped spread the rumor even contradict themselves. A few include disclaimers buried at the bottom of the page, stating that Darci never spoke out about this because it wasn't true, undermining the sensational headline with a quiet admission of fabrication. This inconsistency is typical of clickbait-style content, which often prioritizes dramatic storytelling over factual accuracy. These kinds of rumors frequently target young celebrities, especially those who gained fame early, because their personal histories are less publicly known and therefore easier for tabloids to distort. It is also important to consider the nature of misinformation in online celebrity culture. Young public figures are especially vulnerable to fabricated stories, exaggerated hardships, or invented health crises that are designed to attract clicks rather than convey truth. The cancer rumor surrounding Darci Lynne fits this pattern precisely. Dramatic enough to spread quickly, vague enough to avoid accountability, and unsupported by any serious journalism. Because of the complete lack of reliable, independently verifiable evidence, these claims must be treated strictly as unverified rumors and misinformation, not as factual parts of her life story. Without credible confirmation, and with multiple reputable sources contradicting the claim by omission, the responsible interpretation is that these allegations are false, or at least entirely undocumented. There is another secret. As Darci Lynne moved through her teenage years, one of the most complicated parts of her journey was the struggle to balance her rapidly growing career with something most of her peers took for granted, a normal education. According to one article, while many teenagers of her age were attending football games, joining clubs, and sitting through everyday classes, Darci's schedule looked very different. After winning America's Got Talent, she entered a world of touring, television appearances, rehearsals, interviews, and constant travel. Her calendar was packed with commitments that left little room for the typical high school experience. The demands of fame inevitably meant she missed out on the ordinary rhythm of adolescence. Instead of walking through hallways with friends, she was navigating airports, theaters, and production studios. Her life became a cycle of preparation, performance, and transit, exciting but also isolating. Because of this unusual routine, rumors began to circulate. Some people speculated that she had dropped out of school altogether, assuming that a child celebrity couldn't possibly keep up with academic life. These criticisms, though inaccurate, added stress to an already demanding situation. The truth was far more difficult and far more determined. According to the source, Darci worked tirelessly to keep up with her studies, but her education took place at unusual hours and in unconventional spaces. She reportedly studied online late at night, long after performances ended and after crowds had gone home. She carried her textbooks with her on tour like constant companions, squeezing in reading sessions during quiet moments. Backstage, just minutes before stepping into the spotlight, she sometimes reviewed notes or completed last-minute assignments. Her dedication was real, but the process was exhausting. Despite her effort, the reality of learning on the road meant that she sometimes progressed more slowly than her classmates back home. While others moved through school in a predictable rhythm, Darci's timeline was shaped by the unpredictable demands of her career. According to the article, these delays triggered feelings of shame and self-doubt. In her community, on-time graduation was treated as a symbol of success, stability, and being normal. Falling behind, even for understandable reasons, felt to her like a personal failure. What do you think about Darci Lynne? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.